Well, we had several years ago when we were having, justices confirmed and things of that, the right was saying, give us an up or down vote, give us up or down vote, give us up or down vote. If we did the same thing in this situation, it seems that we would have the popular opinion would be do exactly what you're saying.
Well, I'm not sure popular opinion is for cutting off funding for the war. I think that the right wing has done a very good job, and unfortunately, Democratic senators and House members have their rhetoric has fed into this, that by using their power of the purse, they are hurting troops. That is, again, I want to stress, that is not true. That I used to work on the House Appropriations Committee. The idea that Congress telling the generals, okay, here's your funding bill, okay, this is your last funding bill. This funding bill runs out in X date. After that date, we are not passing another funding bill for this war. The idea that that means that troops will be left unarmed and it will hurt the troops is absurd. What you're doing is you're telling the people who craft war policy, here's what's going to happen, you plan for it.
And then that gives them the time to
absolutely, absolutely. If look, after the House passed their war funding bill in a couple months ago, if the statement from Democrats right after they passed that was, look, generals, that's it. You got your funding, that's your funding that you requested, and that is it. It's out of our hands now. We are not scheduling another vote on another funding bill. The war would be over. So I don't subscribe to the idea that you have to impeach George Bush to end the war, or that you need 60 Senate votes to end the war. What you need is Democratic leaders to use the power that they were given by basically not funding the war in the future.
We're going to take a quick break here on 1510 AM, Ultimate Politics. I'm your host, Wade Norris. We're going to be taking some calls later on. The number here is 303-675-2085. I'm here today with David Sirota, and we'll be right back. And we're back here at Ultimate Politics. I'm your host, Wade Norris, on 1510 AM. We are going to be taking some calls later on at 303-675-2085 from my guest, David Sirota. We were talking about the funding bill, some of the things with the war funding effort, what the Democrats could be doing if they did what they were supposed to in the House and the Senate. But we're going to take a quick tack over to the major party candidates and the minor party candidates and what their approach is, what some of the things they've been saying about the war funding and what they would do if they could, should they, would they, could they. David, let's walk through some of the candidates. What's your take on some of the things they've been saying about Iraq and what they could be saying that could be a lot stronger, could be a leading position?
Well, look, I think the three Democrats who are at the top of the polls right now, Clinton, Obama, and Edwards. I think what we've seen is that Clinton and Obama are extremely similar. Both of them are avoiding any talk of Congress using its real power to end the war. I mean, they've come up with these schemes to deauthorize the war, to basically repeal the original authorization for the war.
Which by the way, they did during the Vietnam War, and it still took 5 more years for the war to end.
That's right. And they've talked about vaguely about some timetable legislation that hasn't gone anywhere. And if you believe that Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama can't get legislation to go anywhere in the Senate if they really tried, then I've got some real estate to sell you. I think Edwards has been the strongest among those three, demanding that Congress really use its power. Some would say that, look, he's got the luxury of not being in the Senate, and so he's more free to say that without political risk. Frankly, if you think that most politicians are at some level, even the best of them, are opportunists, then how you decide who to support is which candidate has decided that their opportunity is the best by doing the right thing. So I think Edwards, I think he's not genuinely against the war, and I think he also he sees his opportunity in being strongly against the war, which I think is good. And he's said he was wrong about his vote for authorization, something that Clinton basically has tried to dance around. Barack Obama says that he was against the war from the beginning, which he was, although that's not telling the full story. You know,
How do you mean?
He came out when he was a very, very big underdog candidate for the Senate in that Democratic primary. He's
back in Chicago.
Back in Chicago, right? He said, "I'm against the war. I don't think we should." This was when they were debating whether to authorize the war. He said he was against the authorization. Now, it was politically easy for him to do that. He needed to differentiate himself in a primary. But I'm not trying to take anything away from him for that. It was not easy to oppose the authorization.
That was the right stand.
Yeah, it was absolutely the right stand. However, the full story is that subsequent to becoming the nominee for that Senate race, he basically removed all mentions of the war in his speeches. For about his first year and a half as a senator, there were almost none. I think there were no references to Iraq on his Senate website at all. He actually gave an interview to the New Yorker saying that while he opposed the authorization of the war, that I'm paraphrasing here, that he could understand that people voted for the authorization because he wasn't in the Senate and didn't see the intelligence that they saw. Again, this is not to take anything away from him for originally opposing the war, but
you're just saying you wished he had followed through that
exactly.
stance and kept fighting. And and then you look at all the candidates. I mean, Edwards, as you said, from the outside has become stronger now that he's on the outside.
That's right.
The only person on the left side of the debate, the Democrats, who's really been consistent from the get-go has been our buddy Dennis Kucinich. Unfortunately, he's not a top-tier candidate, but he has been the one that's been consistent from the beginning, and he's long said, we instead of Department of War, we need a Department of Peace.
Right.
In hindsight, in 2004, I thought, that was kind of loony, but looking at the number of Osama bin Ladens that we are creating in the Middle East, I think that he's totally got the right idea.
He does. I mean, I think the one thing I would take issue with him a little bit is that we're supposed to have a Department of Peace. It's supposed to be called the State Department. Unfortunately, it's been manipulated and abused, and its mission has unfortunately changed. I think Dennis is. I know Dennis. I worked with him on Capitol Hill when I worked for Bernie Sanders of Vermont.
He's also a great person.
He's a great guy, and look, his message is right on. I think that in many ways the country is just not. It's just not ready for it. He's in a lot of ways he's ahead of his time. Clearly, he was ahead of his time on the Iraq message about not supporting the invasion. I think that the other thing about Dennis is that he's providing a very valuable service or playing a valuable role by raising the right kinds of questions and forcing the other candidates to deal with them. I mean, Dennis is one of the few candidates who talks consistently about NAFTA and trade. Edwards is pretty good on it. He's talked more about it than the other two top candidates in that race.